iPhone 6s Plus versus OnePlus 5T, which is the better buy? Let's find out in this video. Coming up, let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. And should you buy an iPhone 6s Plus or a OnePlus 5T? Now, the 5T is hands down the best value phone I think you can buy right now. But if you're looking for an iOS experience, you might be actually looking at the 6s Plus just because it's in the same price point as the 5T. It also offers a lot of the same features: a big, large screen, headphone jack, 4K recording. Not the best camera you can buy, but still great cameras on both. You do get dual cameras on the 5T. Both have aluminum bodies, very similar in a lot of areas. The biggest difference here is that the 5T is going to give you the 18:9 display, which is this really tall and narrow display, putting it in line with the trends of 2017. Now over here on the 6s Plus, it's your typical big plus iPhone experience. It does do landscape mode if you have it in the standard view, and it has the fingerprint scanner, Touch ID 2nd gen. We will have ourselves a 4K video recorder on the back, as well as a 12 megapixel iSight camera for photography. It's a fantastic device right here in the 6s Plus. Also, Apple is giving you the $29 battery replacement for this device if you have one that has any battery issues with it. So it's a pretty good deal right now. So let's talk about the first thing between these two phones, and that's the body and the build. Okay, so let's talk about the body and the build between both of these devices. Now, both of them do feel quite similar, if not exactly the same on the rear. They both have this slick aluminum build here, which I do find very premium feeling on both 5T and the 6s Plus, but I do think it looks a little bit sleeker and better on the 5T just because the antenna lines are not very apparent as where they are very apparent on the 6s Plus. To me, the 5T just looks a little bit more modern, whereas the 6s Plus looks a little bit more dated because it doesn't have the dual camera like the 7 Plus and the 8 Plus. But on the front, you do have a much narrower display on the OnePlus 5T versus the thicker, more wide feel on the body of the 6s Plus. Now the 6s Plus is 92 grams, and the 5T is just around 160 grams. So what that translates to is a much bigger but lighter feeling phone in the 5T. So even though the 5T is about the same height as the 6s Plus, the 6s Plus feels a lot more unwieldy, meaning it feels a lot larger in your hand, even though they're about the same size. Now, some might like that. Some might like that heft. It may feel a little more premium to you. But to me, I like a lighter feel. Since the phone's already large, I don't want the phone to be even heavier. So you really got to decide between these two. Do you want a heavier, more heftier phone when it comes to the body with a slightly older looking design, or do you want the more modern 18:9 design here for around the same price point, or with a lighter body? So that's really what you get here in terms of that. Now they both have camera humps, but because there's a dual camera on the 5T, it's definitely larger than that one on the 6s Plus. Both do have silent switches. Again, I like the 5Ts here because it has a ridge on the silent switch. It helps you to locate where it's at a little bit better. So other than that, both very large phones. I think the 5T is pretty easily and obviously sleeker here between the two. And if I was to choose just based on design, I think the 5T gets it here for me. Okay, so let's talk about display differences between the 5T and the 6s Plus. Now, first of all, both of these are rocking 1080p display panels. So in terms of clarity and sharpness, they are about identical. The 6s Plus is going to give you a slightly higher resolution because it has a smaller screen with the same number of pixels. It's an LCD panel, however, so it doesn't have that very vibrant, punchy look that you're going to get from the OnePlus 5T, which is also, tweakable. So you can go into display, you can go into screen calibration, you could change this to sRGB, DCI-P3, which is basically one of the best, calibrations I like on a smartphone, the adaptive mode and the custom color mode. Now, between these two, if you're going to pick one just for display, I think the 5T has the edge here because it's a lot more punchy, and if you want it to look more standard like the one on the 6s Plus, you can do that like I just showed you in the settings. Now, in terms of brightness, both of them are very bright. I think most people wouldn't be able to notice the difference between the two. But in terms of, usable screen space, the iPhone 6s Plus feels wider whereas the 5T feels more comfortable and taller. So you got to decide between those two factors. I think in terms of display quality itself, the 5T has the edge here over the 6S Plus, but the 6S Plus is one of the best in the business if you do like the LCD type display panels. So go with the 6S Plus if you don't like OLED panels. Go with the 5T if you want the overall better display here. Okay, so let's discuss the software differences between the two. Now, a lot of people tend to really like iOS, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's one of the best softwares, I think, on a smartphone. The iPhone 6S Plus had some pretty big issues when it came to iOS 11 when it first came out. It wasn't running that well, but it has gotten better since 11.2.5. So it's really pretty decent right now and very fast on the 6S Plus, just like some of the newer iPhones. So no issues when it comes to the software. I'm not going to explain too much about it. You know, it's got the bolder type font faces in the App Store, has been redesigned. Control Center here with screen recording functionality. A lot of bold stuff going on, like right here in the count. See the months are bolder here now. So just a little bit tweaks here and there. iOS is still very similar to most of the iOSs before, just with a little slightly more modern feel to it. There's a lot more features when it comes to accessibility and things like that. But other than that, it's basically iOS at its core. Over here is Oxygen OS, and you got to really applaud OnePlus for really focusing on their software and refining it over the years the OnePlus series has been running here. And it's also got an update to Oreo, which I'm going to update soon for this 5T. But this got pretty much everything you want from an Android device. It's very smooth, sleek, clean software here for the 5T, and it runs fantastic. It's blazing fast in pretty much everything you do. And on the day-to-day, I think it actually performs better than now the 6S Plus. Maybe when the 6S Plus first dropped, probably not. But at this point right now, it does perform better than the 6S Plus. So if you're looking for a better performance, I would say the 5T is the way to go. But if you want better quality apps, better polish in the applications, the 6S Plus still can't be beat when it comes to this comparison right here. But using most of the apps, like your basic ones, Amazon, eBay, YouTube, all that stuff, pretty much the same on both platforms. So software is pretty much a draw here. But for me, I think, again, more polished apps, go with the iPhone 6S Plus. If you want a really good software experience for Android and a lot of customization that really feels kind of like a rooted phone, the 5T is going to be the way to go here. All right, so let's discuss the cameras here. You do have a dual camera setup here for the 5T. That is a 20 megapixel plus a 16 megapixel sensor here for the telephoto lens. On the rear of the 6S Plus, you do have a 12 megapixel iSight 4K camera. Both of these shooters can do 4K. Now, turning it over to the front, you're going to get a much smaller resolution on the 6S Plus at 5 megapixels versus 16 on the OnePlus 5T. Now, don't just take megapixels into account here. That doesn't all that matters here when it comes to these cameras. It has more to do with the sensors. But I can tell you right now that the 6S Plus still performs exceptionally well when it comes to the camera. I think the 5T might have a little bit more of a punchy photo, and the one I would choose between these two, I will show you some samples after this, but you do get the benefit of the 2x zoom, and when this does get Oreo update, you also get a better and improved manual camera. I actually have the update. I'm doing it after this video, but you have video modes here. 1080p, you can do 60, you can do 4K, you can do 4K here. The slow-mo is probably a little bit better for the 6S Plus. You do have the square modes, and depending on whether you like this software or this software, to me, both of them are very clean. I think if you were to pick one for camera, the fronter camera will be the 5T because it has the dual setup, and it does have telephoto zoom on there. The front-facing camera is also much better on the 5T over the 6S Plus in my experience. So, like I say, if I was to pick one between these guys, it would be the 5T. Take a look at some of these samples right here to decide for yourself. All right. Let's talk about the audio between these two. Now, the 6S Plus, I've been having some issues with the headphone jack. That might just be my own issue. It doesn't work with all headphones. Sometimes I get a little static in there. So I don't know if you've had headphone jack issues with the 6S Plus, but I've had a few here. Yours might be different, though. I'm not going to say that you shouldn't buy one just because of my particular issue, but I did want to point that out. It did happen for my phone. 5T, I don't have no such issues with its headphone jack, but the audio that comes out of the speakers of both of these devices is, not horrible. It's actually pretty good, but not having two speakers, and you do use a phone that has two speakers like a 7 Plus, for example, or an iPhone 10, iPhone 8 Plus, those devices, it does tend to blow these away when it comes to the audio. But if you don't cover the speaker up, I think they both get plenty loud enough for most users. So yeah, if you're deciding between one of these for speakerphone quality, I think that both are pretty evenly matched in this regard. I haven't heard too much difference. I mean, we could bring out something and measure the decibels, but it's not that far off in my experience with both of these. So deciding between the audio, I would still pick the 5T because I personally didn't have any issues with the headphone jack, but the 6S Plus, to me, when the headphone jack did work, it actually sounded better than the 5T. So here, this is not really the deciding factor, I would say, for between these two is audio. It's a pretty even Steven experience. Okay, so let's discuss their phone call quality. Here's a part where I thought that the OnePlus 5T did a lot better on the battery life when you are talking on the phone. So if you want better battery life when you're talking on your phone, you want the 5T. I found the 6S Plus will just drain super fast when doing phone calls. In terms of reception, I also got a little bit better reception on the 5T, surprisingly. The 6S Plus would cut out sometimes when I was on the train or in the subway in my experience using this device. So again, personally, I had a better experience with the 5T using these two devices, and I would pick it for the phone call quality here as well. So I think 5T for phone calls. So which one represents a better value for the money? I mean, right now, this is one of the best iPhones you can buy just because it offers so much and it's not going to cost you $1,000. You get a headphone jack, you get a beautiful body here, super premium looking phone. This was actually the first large iPhone I have ever purchased, and I loved it ever since day one, and I still love it to this day. It's an amazing device. But when you see something like the 5T become available and you see all that it's offering, it really becomes confusing whether to know if it's worth it or not. So which one is really worth it here? I mean, you're taking a look at a phone that's from 2017. You're taking a look at a phone that's from 2015, but both are very, comparable. We should talk about the 18:9 factor here with the 5T having OLED. The screen itself and the design itself is one of the reasons I would choose the 5T, but which one would I choose? Directly, you want to know the direct answer? I choose the 5T. Simply because it gives you the more modern design, same feel and material. It feels a little bit faster. The fingerprint scanner is faster. It gives you NFC, and OnePlus has been pretty good about their updates. So I think it's the better value here. If you do like iPhone, though, this is one of the best values you can buy right now when it comes to a large iPhone, if not the best large iPhone value. So if you strictly know you want iOS, you want a large phone, but you don't want to pay $700-800 for an iPhone, get the 6S Plus, you're going to be happy. But between this comparison, the better value here, from my perspective, is the 5T. If you guys found this video helpful, enjoyable, do me a favor, click that like button for me. Which one would you pick, the 6S Plus or the 5T? Comment that down below. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more. Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.